Hey guys. Okay, so roughly about a week ago, we put a post up on social media alerting people to the fact that there had been some rather big changes within the town planning world, more specifically with regards to like the dwelling house space. Now, in case you missed that post, in super simple terms, what we essentially said is that the state government had dropped some changes which in simple terms removed council's ability to assess dwelling house applications where there were new builds and where there was no relevant overlay. Like mind blowing. Anyway, I want to use this week's video to kind of give you guys a bit more insight and context to why these changes have occurred and to update you on where we're at in terms of our thinking about the flow-on implications and how things are going to work going forwards. Now, when it comes to our videos, need to put a disclaimer out there from the very start. When it comes to our videos, it's usually me talking about my jam. Like it's stuff that I know inside out and I'm confident in what I'm saying. This week's video is actually going to be pretty much the entire opposite. I don't know what I'm talking about here, and I'm sure down the track, whether it's in an hour's time, a couple of days' time, a few months' time, I'm going to look back and go, yeah, okay, that wasn't quite correct. The purpose of today's video is essentially to alert people to the fact that there has been some changes in this space and to get people talking about these changes so that people that are smarter than myself, aka the legal boffins out there, can start to work out how we're going to navigate this new world going forward, because it's a little bit crazy. Just going to put that out there from the start. So yeah, big disclaimer, not going to sit here and say this week's video is going to be 100% factually correct. It's designed to just give you some insight into what I'm thinking, how far I've come, where I'm at, and then go, okay guys, run with it. Help me work out what the heck's going to happen next, because I honestly don't know. So let's start. How have these changes all come about? Well, back in roughly September, we had the Housing Crisis Summit. Now, as a result of that Housing Crisis Summit, the state government made a declaration that they were going to amend the town planning rules to essentially allow people to rent out granny flats to independent people. So instead of having that single household, you would be allowed to essentially have two tenancy type agreements happening. So they fast-tracked that. They changed the legislation to amend their household definition, secondary dwelling definitions, things like that. Thing is, when it got down to the local government level, the local government went, that's nice, doesn't change anything here. At the end of the day, our planning schemes, so our codes specifically reference, when I say codes, the acceptable outcomes within those codes specifically reference our household definition. So the changes you've made kind of mean nothing. Sorry to say it, guys. Anyway, fast forward a little bit later, local government goes, hey, look, guys, we can see what you're trying to achieve. We don't want to fight you here. We will amend our definitions to align with what you're trying to do in your definitions, but first and foremost, you need to let us include some additional design or siting requirements. We need to put some extra safeguards or extra safe measures in place to make sure that we don't end up just with a free-for-all out there and we don't end up with dual occupancies. So we need to make sure these things are still ancillary to and subordinate to the primary use. And like I said, we don't end up with dual occupancies unintentionally here. So, as I understand it, local governments were having those debates trying to work out, okay, how are we going to amend our scheme to give ourselves that extra level of protection, keeping in mind that they have a responsibility to the public to make sure that they're managing amenity impacts and all of that sort of stuff. So, okay, how do we uphold our obligations there, but then at the same time not be fighting the state government in terms of what they're trying to achieve, because we get that what they're trying to achieve here, etc., etc. Anyway, they're working through that process. State government here, basically, and I'm talking from my perspective, what I've heard along the grapevine. I'm not saying this is 100% factually correct, but basically the state government went, you guys are taking too long, like we need to get the skates on, we need to get this moving here. We're going to amend the state regulations to basically say you have no say over dwelling houses going forward. So basically they made it prohibited for councils to accept applications for dwelling houses when that's a material change of use, so new build, as opposed to renovation extension, where there's no other relevant overlays. So that was the change that's dropped this month that now has us going WTF, like what the heck. Now, I've been on an absolute roller coaster over the last week trying to understand what the implications are here. So first and foremost, when I first heard about these changes, I was just like, damn, it's going to be a free-for-all out there. Like the QDC requirements allow up to 11 meters in height. Let me say that properly. I can't get my words out. I need coffee this morning. But basically the QDC requirements allow up to 11 meters in height and there's no story limit. You could potentially get like 4 stories within 11 meters if you do a little bit of excavation work. Like, wow, this is crazy. Or small lots. QDC doesn't specify a 25 meter building length or any building length requirement. You could end up with a 30 meter house on a small lot. Like, wow. Or the other example I've been giving to people is granny flats. So the local rules, the dwelling house rules, prescribe a 80 square metre granny flat limit in terms of GFA. QDC doesn't prescribe that. So wait, does that mean you could do like 120 square metre granny flat here? Like, this is crazy talk. Anyway, I then progressed from there and I thought, you know what? No, we still have to assess against the QDC. And the QDC triggers siting variations for when you go over certain height limits and all that sort of stuff. And at the end of the day, the town planners in council, specifically within Brisbane City Council, they're still responsible for assessing those siting variations. So you know what? No, it's still going to end up in council's hands, and council's still going to enforce their intentions or achieve their desires through that mechanism. So okay, it's not going to quite be the free-for-all I thought. But wait, no, the 11 metres, that doesn't trigger a siting variation. And the over 25 metre, that doesn't trigger a siting variation. It's still a free-for-all. So then, as I said, I'm swaying from one extreme to the other, going on that massive roller coaster ride. Anyway, the latest evolution was a couple of days ago. I went, wait, amenity and aesthetics. So going back where a few years ago, more than a few years ago, council introduced the amenity and aesthetics approval to the DA process. Now, in super simple terms, you trigger an amenity and aesthetics approval where you do not meet the acceptable outcomes in the dwelling house code, the dwelling house small lot code, the TBC design code, and there's a couple of other scenarios. But basically the key ones being the dwelling house code and the dwelling house small lot code. Now, BCC took the approach of saying if you're lodging a DA, so if you're lodging a town planning application, we will throw the amenity and aesthetics in for the same price. So we'll assess that application and approve it as part of that process. So there was no additional fees and all of that sort of stuff. Now, having a chat to one of my legal contacts yesterday, we looked into it and we went, okay, we think the amenity and aesthetics provisions still apply. So, okay, where we're at now is basically we may not trigger a DA to go over, let's say, the 9.5 metre height limit or over the 25 metre small lot building length requirement, but we are going to trigger an amenity and aesthetics approval. Okay, so if we trigger that, that means council's still going to assess it. So that's how they're going to still achieve their amenity impacts and all that, like controlling the amenity impacts. It's going to be business as usual, right? But hold on a sec. Under the amenity and aesthetics provisions, you can only consider if there is an extreme conflict in the character or amenity impacts. How are you going to argue that there's an extreme conflict or amenity impacts by creating an extra story within the same built form extremities or limits? Yeah, that's going to be a tough one. Okay, so maybe you can see I've just totally jumped around this week. It's been a total mind F, to say the least. But essentially I'm going, okay, so we're going to trigger, but council's going to try and assess it against the normal AOs because that's natural instinct, that's what you're going to do. But then someone will challenge them in court and they'll be forced to refine their assessments and focus on the fact that it is just the extreme conflict type provisions, etc., etc. Okay, so what we're going to get is we're going to get business as usual, but through different processes and extra fees. But it's going to grind the industry to a halt for a little while as everyone tries to work out how it works. There's going to be a bit of back and forth as people try to challenge council on what they can and can't assess. Okay, so this is where I'm at. So it's like I look at it and I go, I want to give the state government props. Like I want to sit here and go, damn, you guys moved fast. Like town planning world does not move this fast. You have to be given credit for just dropping these rule changes and speeding up the process, removing red tape, all of that sort of stuff. Removing red tape in theory. Like I have to give you credit there. But at this point in time, my thought process is you guys have created this massive poo storm. Like it is messy out there. We could literally have a scenario where 3 sites side by side. One site is subject to the 8.5 metre height limit because it's got a slope less than 15%, but there's no story limit. But the next site next door, because they're doing a renovation extension or because they've got a relevant overlay or something, they're assessable against the planning scheme. So they've got 9.5 metre height limit and 2-story limit. But the next property next door, its slope is greater than 15% and it's a new build and there's no relevant overlay. Okay, so it's got 11 metre height limit and no story limit. Like, man, talk about confusing. We've got sites now where, okay, we previously, or where we now would need a development approval and a amenity aesthetics and a QDC siting variation. Or you might just need a development approval and no amenity and aesthetics, but siting variation. Or you might need a siting variation and an amenity aesthetics, but no DA. Or like you can see where I'm going here. Like there is so many different variables or pathways these applications can go down based on my current thinking, my current train of thought. So I just sit there and go, man, everyone bitched and moaned about how complex town planning process was before. This is next level complex. Like it is messy from what I can see right now. So where do we go from here? Well, I sort of see there's probably 3 different pathways things can go from here. The first option is that local governments essentially amend their planning scheme either through a standard amendment or a TLPI to counter what the state government has done. I have heard through the grapevine, whether it's true or not, that there is a certain local government out there that's gone, thank goodness we have not actually released our planning scheme yet, it's still in the works. We have a chance to try and counter these issues and overcome these issues and come up with a better way of dealing with this stuff. So yes, that is one way that Brisbane City Council could go. The other option is the state government sits there and goes, oh, we hadn't quite thought this through. Like, we thought we were suddenly going to free up all of these houses for granny flats or extra accommodation, all of that sort of stuff. Yeah, we didn't realise that it was only going to capture certain houses and not all houses, not renovations and extensions. And we hadn't realised that there was going to be all these flow-on impacts of still needing applications and costing more money and all of that sort of stuff. Like, talk about costing more money. Previously, if you had a carport, and again, this is just where I'm at with my current thinking, if you had a carport and it was on the front boundary, on the side boundary, small lot, site cover greater than 50%, you would only trigger one council fee of $640 because it's one component. It's a carport. Now, in theory, you need an amenity and aesthetics application, which we don't know what the fees are going to be for that. So you need amenity aesthetics, and I do need to clarify, this change has not been brought about by council, and they need to dedicate resources, so humans, to sit there and assess these applications. So you can't expect that they're going to offer these amenity and aesthetics approvals for free. Like, you're going to have to pay for them, let's be honest. So yeah, you could have an amenity and aesthetics fee. Then you potentially have 3 siting variation fees. So you've got the side boundary trigger, you've got the front boundary trigger, and you've got the site cover trigger. Like, each one of those is like $600 or $700 or something. Like, the fees are going to start to add up. Anyway, what was I saying? I was saying that pathways we could go down. So yeah, second option is that the state government can go, we didn't realise this is how it was going to pan out. We rushed this decision. Let's reverse that legislation change or revoke that legislation change to basically undo the damage we've done. And then we'll stop and we'll rethink and we'll regroup and try and coordinate things. The final option is this is the new norm. Like, this is just how we progress going forward. And amenity and aesthetics becomes the new version of the DA. And we try and work within that framework. Yeah, a little bit messy. Just gonna put it out there. So what can you guys do from here? I would strongly encourage you not to reach out to council and not to ask them any questions. At the end of the day, they are currently trying to work through things like us. Like, they don't have all the answers. So if you jump on the phone to them or email them or any of that sort of stuff, you're just tying up resources and preventing them from progressing their thought processes and understanding the issue in more detail. So yeah, would not encourage you to jump on the phone to them. If you want to talk to someone, we do have the details for the state government that we've been given from council. I'll throw them in the comments below. You guys can reach out to them and ask them more questions. But the reality is, what I'm probably going to suggest is, it's Christmas, it's holiday time. Let's just push it to the side, pretend these changes didn't happen, and just wait until we come back next year. And hopefully by that stage, everyone's progressed things a little bit further and we have a bit more certainty as to what's going to happen out there. That's all I can really suggest at this stage. Because yeah, like I said, I've been on this roller coaster all week going, okay, but what about this? And wait, what about that? And hold on a sec, what about that? And yeah, it's just, there's no point at this point trying to understand what's going to happen. Just park it and we'll deal with it next year. Okay, I think that covers off everything I wanted to say today. As I always say, until next time, thanks for watching.
For all you red tape lovers out there, I have one thing to say. Well, no, actually, I've got 3. Number 1, the advice provided in these videos is general in nature. It's not site-specific. You would be a silly Billy to go and make financial decisions based on this advice without first checking with the town planner. Don't be a silly Billy. Number 2, Brisbane Town Planning is in no way linked to Brisbane City Council. The views expressed in these videos are my own, not council's. So if you don't like them, blame me, not council. Number 3, what was my number 3? Oh yeah, the views expressed in these videos are accurate at the time of recording. If you're watching this video back 10 years from now, the views may not be so accurate. That's all.